The boys started talking about how it would be cool to commit a crime, inspired by the Scream movie.
All right, I'm back.
So what is your relationship with Cassie?
Friends.
Okay. Is it any you ever dated her or anything like that, or just strictly
No.
kind of friends? How often do you see her, maybe during a week?
Every day at school, but this would be my third time hanging out with her.
Okay. Let's talk about Friday, and I think the date was the 22nd.
The interrogator will now attempt to gather information and establish a timeline leading up to Friday, the day of the murder.
And that was the night that you guys went up there to visit. Can you tell me a little bit about maybe at school or something, how you learned or how you come to go up to Cassie's place or out to that place she was house sitting?
She told me on Thursday
Okay.
that she was having baby sitting in the house, basically. House sitting.
Okay, so you guys decide to go, plans are made, it's Friday. What time do you get ready? What time do you end up, how does it work out that you and Brian head out to?
Sleep needs to
What time
I'll just
did we
refer to
leave
as
home?
Whispering Cliffs, okay?
Yeah.
Fair enough?
Whispering Cliffs is the street address of the home Cassie was house sitting. Tori's mother is helping him recount his timeline.
Mom, what
What?
time did I leave from our house
Um,
on Friday?
it was after I got back from taking Jamie to the game.
It was about 6:30 or
Yeah,
7,
6:30ish.
about there.
Okay, between 6:30 and
Fine.
7,
Yeah.
you left your house.
Yeah, and I went and picked up
About
Brian.
7. Probably,
What the
between 6
fuck?
and 7.
Okay, and
Picked up Brian.
you were driving your way,
Yeah.
that red, is it you?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, and that's your car, you get back and forth in. So you drove that to Brian's house
I picked him up, and then
about around what time do you think it
She's
was?
always fucking with this shit.
I don't know, maybe 7. Yeah, just between 7.
It's
and
annoying.
Okay.
In reality, Brian and Tori had planned to kill Cassie on that very Thursday he talked about. They filmed themselves in a car that night, saying that they'd snooped around another girl's house, but she wasn't home, so they were going to call up Matt and Cassie. In that tape, Brian spoke. There are friends, but we have to make sacrifices. So, I feel tonight it is the night, and I feel really weird and stuff. I feel like I want to kill somebody. For whatever reason, they didn't go through with it that night.
There should be no law against killing people. I know it's a wrong thing, but hell, you restrict somebody from it, they're gonna want it more.
We found our victim, and sad as it may be, she's our friend. But you know what? We all have to make sacrifices. Our first victim is going to be Cassie's daughter. She's going to be alone in a big, dark house out in the middle of nowhere. How perfect can you get? I mean, like, holy shit, dude.
I'm horny just thinking about it.
Hell yeah.
At school the next morning, Brian recorded a short video of Cassie by her locker.
Have you seen Tori? He's supposed to meet me here at 7:30, and it's 8:19. He's an hour late. You don't even care, dude. Okay.
And so, at school, I told a whole bunch of people that there's gonna be a party there and stuff, and they're just gonna be home alone for the whole weekend.
Okay, how good, now let's talk a little bit about that. Why did you, like a whole bunch of people, what does that mean? Does that mean 10? Does that mean 20?
I
Does that
told
mean 5?
a group of 10. I believe it was like 8 or 9.
Okay.
Of course. And I was talking to them and stuff, and they said that they would tell their friends and stuff.
Okay.
It was actually just Matt, Brian, and Tori who came over on the night of the crime. Although we can't be sure if Brian
Holy
actually
shit.
told a bunch of the other kids that Cassie would be alone at the house that weekend. It seems like something he could have easily made up, hoping to make the interrogators believe that any
Yeah,
number
is
of
that
students
better?
could have had the necessary knowledge to take advantage of Cassie's vulnerable situation. And in fact, interrogators would deliberately bring this point up to Tori the next day, asking if the party was common knowledge at school. This already sets him up to be more at ease, because the logical progression in his mind would be, the more people
I
who
actually
know,
am kinda
the more
digging
suspects
this,
there are, and the less
texture
focus
pack,
there will
though.
be on me.
The
Nice
graphics
try.
are smooth.
Did you tell other people about this?
Yes.
Okay, so it's maybe common knowledge at school that
Yes.
she was gonna have a few people over.
What
It
is
was-
this?
But it really wasn't gonna be
How do
this
I
one.
get
A
it?
lot
party
of
or anything
people
like
knew
that, right?
about it, but yeah.
Tori responds very quickly, anxious to accept that extra cover.
Did they say what time that party was supposed to begin?
Well, I said I'd be there around 8.
Okay.
Tori mentions planning their trip to Cassie's at school that Friday.
You hooked up with Brian and you said,
Oh God,
we should
it's a green
we should go to
dildo.
Cassie's place.
Yeah, we were planning that during school.
In reality, he and Brian had
Keeper.
indeed used their class time that day to plan the night
man.
out, but it wasn't concerning fun activities with friends. Instead, they taped themselves saying things like, "Hopefully this will go smoothly and we can get our first kill done and then keep going." And, "I'm sorry Cassie's family, but she had to be the one.
Does
She's
anyone have
perfect,
strings
so
I
she's
can
gonna
go
die."
fishing?
September 22nd to 26th.
not?
Schedule our 4th hour. We're writing our plan right now.
I do. I want to tame a cat so I can
Yeah, number 1.
keep creepers away.
We have to stick with the plan. And she's perfect, so she's gonna die.
After school,
Me.
they linked up before heading out.
Let's
Juggalo.
see. Okay. So I called Tori around 7:45 or something like that, and then
Oh,
he came
shit.
got me at around 8 o'clock.
The interrogators confirmed some details about the vehicle they took, as well as some phone calls they made around this
At the
time.
village.
Not only will they check that these calls were actually made, but they also may look for cellular tower location data to confirm that they were made from the spots the
Not
boys
me.
say they
I'm
were.
not in a cave.
And this will become crucial as the phone calls get closer to the time of the crime. Brian and Tori eventually found their way to the Whispering Cliffs residence. And you'll see that the
Dude,
interrogators
this is
asked very
lit.
open-ended questions about what happened when they arrived. This is a common way to let the suspect apparently control
Hey,
the narrative, while also
destroying
paying
my
close
house,
attention to
you
what they
bitch.
add, omit, or even alter in the timeline of events, as compared to what the interrogators
Asshole.
already know.
You're destroying
This
my
helps
house.
to establish their general trustworthiness, or lack thereof.
Then what?
Then we saw Cat
Juggalo 1504, dude.
Matt up on the front porch, and he said,
Is
"Hey
it like,
guys,
is that like up on the balcony? Is that
Yeah.
up like on the second level?
Right.
the balcony."
And so
he
he
said,
come out of the
"Hey,
house
guys,
to
yeah."
greet you.
Thank you.
So we were inside the house. We're like, "Oh my
Well,
god, it's
I
a huge house."
guess
And
now
stuff.
that you've...
And so we went.
How do you get into the house?
You go up the balcony.
Well, since you
And
destroyed the
it's
house,
That.
finish it.
So you ended up entering the
door.
house at the same place where Matt was standing
Yes.
greeting you.
Yeah.
But did you notice there was a lower door too in the garage
I
door?
did.
Okay,
notice
we
that.
didn't go in that door. You went in the second level.
Yes.
Okay. And then what?
Well, we
You guys went into the house.
walked inside.
Both together. Tori was with you.
Yes.
The interrogator is starting to thumb through notes. He's attempting to distract the suspect and make communication more difficult, but the suspect doesn't seem to notice.
Okay.
I see
And
an
we saw the house
ocean.
was really big and stuff. And we thought this was cool, you know. And then I remember asking Cassie, "Where's everybody?" You know, she said, "Oh, well, I'm not sure. We can't." So we sat down. I remember she had a
Okay,
big.
the music is
So you
more
sat.
than
So you went there and
but-
you went into a first room. Did you go into a living room, a hallway? What was
There's
it?
a living room on the left
Yeah,
side.
I don't
and
know.
then there's
Brum,
a
brum,
staircase.
brum,
So what's the first thing you did when you arrived there? Did you just go into the living room, or did you
Hello.
go
What's
throughout
Friday
the
the
house?
13th?
I walked
Check out
around.
the house.
Yeah.
Okay. Was you escorted by anybody, or was
I
you
was
just say?
Max.
Okay, so Matt, like,
You walk me around and stuff. I'm
okay,
like,
just
"All
kind of
right."
showing you everything. So you basically looked at every room in the house, got
Just
the
the house.
lay of the land.
There's a
yeah?
lot of rooms there. Yeah.
Okay,
There's tons of them.
all right. So you arrived there. What happens when you get there?
Cassie and Matt gave us a tour of the entire house.
Just back up just a little bit. So you rolled and drive. Did they greet you at the
Yeah,
door? Did you say?
Matt was outside on the deck and he waved to us, and then he went inside the house and we just walked up the stairs and walked
Okay. So you walked up the stairs. You saw a basement door going in, maybe, and a garage door.
in.
See, this is
Basement.
the garage door right here.
Yeah.
Was there a door here? A little man door to walk? Did you?
Oh
notice
yeah,
that?
there was.
Okay, so you went by that door, but you went up.
We
the
went up
stairs.
the stairs
Second
through
level
the front
entrance.
door.
Okay. So they greeted you there.
Uh-huh.
You went inside.
Yes.
And what happened? So you went inside.
We looked around where the entry hall, and then we got the tour of the entire house.
Now, did
We
they
went-
take you on that tour?
Yeah, they did. They showed us around.
The interrogator made sure to
That'd be
call
cool,
attention to the
yeah.
lower entrance to the house, and the fact that Brian and Tori became well acquainted with the layout of basically the entire home. Because of this exploration, they learned of many entrances and places to hide. Later, when they left the home, they would make sure to leave a back door, which leads from the garage into the basement, unlocked, so that a sneaky re-entry could be made without alerting Cassie or Matt. A bit further into his account of the get-together, Brian starts talking about going through a movie collection at the home, and the investigators zero in on this topic.
And then I saw that he had a big video collection. So look a bunch of movies and stuff.
Okay.
And then I think
Did you look through those movies?
I did.
Okay. Do you like movies? I mean,
Yes.
what kind of movies? What's your favorite kind of movies?
I like horror movies.
Okay. Do you like horror movies?
Okay.
What's your favorite movie?
My favorite movie, what genre?
Is what?
Like what category?
Oh.
What,
Mm,
there's a lot of them.
is there? What would you say is your favorite movie of all?
All time, my favorite movie would have to be. There's lots of choices. To be honest, I would have to say Halloween. My favorite movie.
Okay.
It's a good
Good
one.
movie, it is.
That's a pretty good classic.
Yeah, it is.
For any other interrogation, asking someone their favorite movie might seem a little off topic. But for this case, it is absolutely relevant. Not only does it serve to get the suspect to relax and talk more comfortably, but it's actually a theme that comes up again and again in this case.
Did you pick a movie out of it? Were you going to watch a movie?
I wanted to watch Domestic Disturbance, but that's not what Troy wanted to watch. So he got Kill Bill Volume 2, I believe.
Okay.
We watched that. And
Did you watch the whole movie? Did you guys all go in the living room and watch
yes,
the movie?
yeah. And I was on the couch that was on the far wall.
Okay.
And Matt and Cassie were kissing and stuff.
Okay.
And Tori was right by the TV. They had a huge TV.
Brian says they watched a little of the movie, but then around 8:50 he was feeling a little bored and said he should probably head home. Matt purportedly said he needed a ride, and Brian says Tori promised to come back and get him. Brian starts talking about when they left the house, but then the interrogator cuts him off to bring up an unexpected subject. Brian had earlier described the other friends enjoying popsicles at the house, and now the investigator asks what they used to open them.
When they were eating popsicles, now were you in the kitchen? What were you using to open them? Were they these ones you have to cut the top open, or did you tear them with your teeth, or how?
You had to cut the top.
Okay, how were they opening the popsicles?
I remember there was a knife in the drawer that had like a
Why are you
child
bullying this kid?
hang on it.
Seriously.
And Matt was like, oh yeah, I showed him how to open it and stuff, and he opened it for me, and then he did it.
Okay. So did you touch that knife at all?
I think I held it first, yes.
Okay. Did you see them using the knife?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And then did it was laying on the counter when you left? Was it put back in the drawer? Was it on the counter? Do you know what it was?
I think it's put back in the drawer actually.
Okay. But you saw that, and Matt showed you. Matt apparently helped you get that knife out of the
Yeah.
thing. Okay. And then why did you handle it?
I was trying to find like a pair of scissors, and I found that, and I'm like,
Okay.
yeah, it's not working.
Okay.
So I just touched that.
This answer goes outside of Brian's prepared story, and he's getting nervous.
But you didn't have a popsicle stick of
I
your own.
did not have
Open, you just helped them open theirs, or?
Yeah, I have.
All right.
I'm not a big fan of those kind of popsicles.
Okay.
The interrogators wanted to know if and why his fingerprints would be on a knife in the house, and now they're about to transition into asking about a knife Tori to have touched.
So you downstairs. Now you got the popsicles out of the freezer downstairs. Is that where you got
Yeah,
them
the
from?
freezer.
That's where they were. All right. Well, did you see any other room
Yeah,
downstairs?
potatoes
Was there?
stuck big.
Did you go in the room that was in the corner? See that
yes.
room in the corner?
Like a microwave, I believe.
Okay. So you check out that room. Do you notice anything about that room that's? I mean, was the lights on in it when you were there?
Lights
Was
were
it-
off,
So
and
you guys
then
had to open the door.
You
and
turned it
go in.
on. And I remember thinking it was kind of out of, in the way
kind
of
of
the
a weird
house.
place
It's kind of
for
a
a
weird
room.
place to have a room. So
Okay.
thought
Did
it
you notice anything on the walls? Do you know what a?
like
Do you know what?
painting, whatever.
Well, maybe like that. But you know what an electrical panel is? Like the breaker box that you turn the breakers on in the house.
Like the steel thing.
Yeah, it's like a steel panel door, and then it's got breaker switches
I
in
didn't
it.
know.
It turns the power off to everything. Do you
I
remember seeing one of those on the wall?
I have it in my house. Yeah,
Okay. Do you remember seeing one on the wall in that room?
I didn't even think of it.
Okay. You didn't think of it, or you didn't see it?
No, I didn't.
Okay. But you might have, if the door would have been hanging open.
Are you going to put me in prison and I'm gonna rot and die? Please don't cut off my head.
What's the address of your emergency?
Waukesha County, Lynn. I'm transferring over a caller on Big Bend. That's a dead end just south of Rivera. And he came upon a 12-year-old female. She appears to be stabbed.
She's having trouble breathing. She said she was stabbed multiple times.
Stabbed multiple times?
Yeah.
I'm thinking, dear God, this is really happening.
Schizophrenia, oppositional defiant disorder, shared psychotic disorder. These are just a few of the diagnoses made by psychological experts in an attempt to understand why one big delusion caused two 12-year-olds named Morgan Geyser and Anissa Wire to do something absolutely awful to their friend Peyton. On the sunny morning of Saturday, May 31st, 2014, a man riding his bike in Waukesha, Wisconsin would stumble upon a horrifying scene.
Okay, sir, are you with her right now?
Yes.
Is she awake?
She's awake.
Is she breathing?
Yeah, she's breathing. She said she can take shallow breaths. She's alert.
Okay, stay with her. We're sending the police department. Don't hang up, okay?
Okay.
Okay. Hold on just a minute, sir. We're sending officers.
Okay.
Is there any assailant around?
I didn't even look. I don't see anybody.
Is there any bleeding going on?
Her clothing has got blood on it.
Where are the wounds? Do you see where the wounds are?
No, I don't know if I should be rolling her over and checking or not.
Okay, just stay with her and just let me know if she's conscious or alert or stops breathing or anything. Hold on, I'm going to talk to the ambulance. Police are also en route.
I'm bothering you at all? You want shade? Okay. Who did that to you? Or don't you want to talk? It's better not to talk and don't talk with your energy.
Later that day, Peyton's best friends would be discovered sitting on the side of the I-94 freeway, covered in blood. Today, we'll be taking a look at the harrowing interrogations that followed. You'll hear the girls refer to Peyton as Bella at times. This is a nickname the victim went by since first grade, when there were two Peytons in her class. One thing that stands out about these interviews is the lack of parental presence. For children this age, it is unusual, although there is no statute requiring it. And the other thing that makes these clips so different from what we usually cover is that there was virtually no need for classic interrogation techniques, because the suspects are extremely forthcoming with talking about exactly what they did, to a shocking degree. Morgan sits doubled over, as if trying to minimize her presence, and then one of the strangest openings to an interrogation I've seen in a while.
Think you guys are going to just run away? So then live in the forest?
I don't know. I told her that we were going to die.
Why?
Because you can't just live in a forest.
Morgan is generally passive and cooperative while waiting.
Just waiting for somebody to come back to, look at a couple things on you, okay?
Okay.
But all of a sudden, she pipes up to ask about the status of her victim.
Do you know what happened to Bella?
What happened to Bella? Is Bella your friend?
She's not Anissa. She's the one who was stabbed.
Stabbed? I'm not really sure.
Is she dead?
I don't know. She was taken to the hospital. Maybe no.
What? I was just wondering.
Although mostly quiet, Morgan is curious about the procedures taking place.
Alright, can we kind of try to get underneath your nails here a little bit?
What are you doing?
This is a DNA swab. This is just checking to see, like, maybe who you're around or who you touched a little bit earlier today.
She's noticeably fidgety and agitated, making odd, repeated arm movements, doing a sort of dancing, shaking motion, and performing a repetitive hand motion, which could be symptoms of her mental illness. Within several weeks of her arrest, Morgan would be diagnosed with early-onset schizophrenia. After her clothing is taken for evidence, an interrogator starts with opening questions to get her feeling comfortable and establish a baseline from which he will determine if future answers are truthful or not.
Everybody been nice to you? Sounds like you've had a long day so far. Well, I'm a detective here at the Waukesha Police Department. Okay?
Okay.
And something happened to you with, looks like two of your friends, and so I gotta talk to you about that for a little bit.
Okay.
So I got some questions for you today.
Mm-hmm.
How old are you?
I'm 12.
12. So you just had a birthday not too long ago? What'd you do for your birthday?
Mommy and I had sushi and cupcakes and Daddy.
He then starts to establish a rapport with her by asking casual questions and relating her birthday to his own daughter. He may also be having issues accepting that a seemingly sweet little girl is sitting in front of him, accused of such a horrible crime. He's likely trying to assess her mental state.
That's funny, my daughter just had her 11th birthday and we had sushi for her birthday too. You're a year older than her though, but her birthday was last week too. Pretty close in age. It's funny that you guys both like sushi. So did you guys get presents for your birthday?
Mm-hmm.
What'd you get?
Tickets to a Star Trek convention?
Where's that at?
I don't know.
When is it coming up or?
It's soon.
Do you like Star Trek?
Yeah.
When's your last day of school coming up?
I don't know. I'm not excited though because I like school.
Really? That's good. My daughter's like that.
Morgan may have liked going to school, but in a lot of ways, she didn't fit in. And reading through the legal documents for this case shows that there were several warning signs she exhibited in the classroom. Teachers say Morgan was an odd kid and a loner. Frankly, all the other kids thought she was weird, and her instructors assumed she was trying to act bizarre on purpose to gain attention. As the school year continued, however, they began to realize there may have been something more sinister brewing under the surface. But they would put the pieces together all too late. It all started with quirky but seemingly innocent behavior. One day in the beginning of the school year, Morgan chased after other kids and barked at them, an incident that one teacher only described as strange. She would run away from other kids and say Snape, the Harry Potter character, was chasing her. But her behavior was about to go from quirky to disturbing. A group of girls found Morgan playing with blood in her fingers. They reported the incident to her math teacher, who proceeded to contact her mother. Morgan's mother replied that Morgan had been going on scary websites. One of these websites was the Creepypasta Wiki, a website consisting of fictional horror stories and online urban legends. The teacher suggested that Morgan no longer visit these types of websites, but it doesn't seem her advice was taken. At one point, Morgan's extreme behavior led to her suspension from school. She snuck a rubber mallet into her locker. Unfortunately for Morgan, when she opened the locker, it fell onto the ground in front of her peers, who reported it. Morgan told the principal that the mallet was for her protection. When pressed on the issue by the school counselor, she stated she only said it was for protection because she didn't know what else to say. Once she was suspended, she crumbled to the ground and cried. The principal then witnessed Morgan talking to herself and noted that it was odd enough to report this to her parents as well. Once Morgan returned to school, other students began noticing a strange journal she would carry around, and one student noticed she had written the word die. Again, Morgan found herself getting into trouble, and this time she was extremely distressed. She was particularly worried about getting into trouble at home. When her parents were contacted, her father stated he was aware of the journal and had told Morgan not to take it to school. Overall, Morgan was a troubled and strange child, but she did have one best friend, and that was Peyton Leitner. Peyton had been friends with Morgan since 4th grade, where she had often noticed her sitting alone. She reached out to Morgan, and despite her unusual habits, the two became best friends. And this act of kindness would come back to bite her in the worst ways when Morgan met Anissa Wire. By all appearances, Anissa was relatively normal in comparison to Morgan, and could be described as a teacher's pet. She often reported any student who wasn't following the directions and had a temper. Still, she was generally liked by her peers, though she didn't have many close friends outside of her small circle, and struggled connecting to others. This would change when she met Morgan early in the school year, and soon after, Peyton. Peyton wasn't particularly fond of Anissa. She described her as rude, hitting people all the time, and using curse words. But she only behaved this way when she was around Morgan, as though she was trying to impress her. The dynamics in friend groups of 3 can be tricky to navigate, and it is clear that this case was no different.
So then you still like Bella?
I can't really tell who Anissa likes and doesn't like.
So you think she dislikes Bella?
Probably, yeah. She always calls her, I don't want to say it.
Homie.
She always calls her a bitch.
Why?
I don't know. Because she's being one? I'm just assuming. I don't really know what the definition is.
So do you like Bella pretty much? Have you ever been mad at her?
She was my only friend for a long time. Because...
Why would you hurt your only friend?
It was necessary.
What do you mean been necessary?
I don't know.
Somebody told you that?
Mm-hmm.
Does Anissa have any other friends?
Mm-hmm. I hate her other friends. Except
Where are
for
other
Caitlin.
friends?
Caitlin's nice. There's this girl named Frankie. And she seems to hate me. And there's this girl, and I don't know her name.
So Frankie's the one that doesn't like you?
Frankie doesn't like me. She said I was creepy. All I do is smile.
As Morgan began hanging out with Anissa more frequently, Peyton noticed a drastic and disturbing change, and so did Peyton's family. Peyton's mother didn't want her hanging out with Morgan, as she believed she was a bad influence who got into trouble at school. In fact, there was even a strange incident involving Morgan at the Leitner household. At Peyton's sleepover, her parents found Morgan setting papers on fire in their basement. They told Peyton she should no longer have any contact with Morgan, but she refused. And Morgan's behavior only continued to escalate when she and Anissa's Slender Man obsession began. Morgan showed violent inclinations even in video games, telling Peyton she wanted to set her Sims house on fire and starve her characters. She snarkily complained to Peyton before the sleepover, "I don't know why your mom thinks she controls the plans of our party," which of course infuriated Peyton's mother, but she still tried to remain supportive of Peyton's friendships and allowed her to attend, unaware of just how unhinged the 12-year-old's two best friends were really becoming. Back in Morgan's interrogation, the officer starts to assess her A&O, alertness and orientation.
Do you know who the president is right now?
What?
Do you know who the president of the United States is?
Yes.
Who's that?
Barack Obama.
What do you remember seeing in the news that's going on lately?
Gross things.
What's gross things?
Kidnapping children and not doing things to them.
Remember which time or specific incident?
Not really. I don't really pay much attention, but it's all gross.
It's all gross.
Her response that the news is all gross may be a symptom of her mental disorder, and you'll see Morgan's fixation on things she deems gross coming up again later. She's been eerily calm thus far, and now the interrogator seems to get concerned about her mental state.
Do you know where you're at right now?
What?
Do you know where you are right now?
Not really.
Where do you think you are?
At a police station.
Her response appears to be an example of flat affect, wherein a person does not express emotions in the same way normal people might. It explains why she speaks in a dull, flat voice without much facial fluctuation. Morgan's behavior already indicates all the classic signs of schizophrenia, marked by periods of psychosis. There could also be bipolar disorder or some other illness coexisting here. An attorney handling her case would likely seek a court-ordered evaluation long before voir dire, because in the U.S., we generally don't hold the mentally incompetent accountable for their crimes. We can't try those people because they are entitled to assist in their defense. If they are unable to assist, then such a trial would be unconstitutional. Now let's switch gears and take a look at Anissa's interrogation. You might think that she would act just as detached as Morgan, but the contrast between how the two girls behave in this high-stress situation is striking.
All right, on to some water. Yeah. Are you doing okay? Are you warm enough in here? It gets kind of chilly because of the concrete and the marble and stuff. Would you like a blanket? They can give you a blanket. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Do you need anything to eat? Okay. You sure? Okay. Maybe as you kind of relax a little bit, you might find that you're starting to get hungry. But Try to drink some water, okay? And I'll be right back with you, okay?
Anissa has her arms crossed and already sounds to be upset or crying.
Can I ask a quick question? Sure. If I just wanted to know how far I walked, because I'm usually not very athletic and just want to know. Trying to think of someplace close to where I live. You know the Kmart that closed down in Waukesha? Off of Sunset? I do. Mm-hmm. I walked from there. Mookie and I walked from the condos close to there, the marshy area, all the way to Steinhoffel's to where the sheriff found us. Okay. Do you know how far that would be? You know, I'm not real certain. I think, why don't I just try to get some specifics as to where, because I honestly don't know where the deputies found you, and I'm being 100% honest with you. And this whole time that I'm going to be talking today, I'm going to be very honest, and I'm not trying any tricks or anything, okay? I see that you're upset, and, but I will try to find out that information for you.
Asking the female officer how far she walked is an odd, borderline inappropriate question. Perhaps this could be an attempt to disassociate from the situation by changing the topic.
This is about Morgan. She can be a little jumpy and like get off task and look around and forget what she's saying in the middle of a sentence a lot. Okay. Because, like, she says she hears voices too. But I just wanted to tell you. So we're aware of that? Maybe not. Okay. Put off by that then. Okay. Well, thank you for telling me that. Okay. Okay. I'll be right back.
She says that Morgan hears voices. This may be true and would be an indicator of schizophrenia, which commonly passes into the prodrome phase during adolescence and is marked by hallucinations, including voices. It could be that Anissa wants to exploit this aspect of Morgan's behavior to draw attention away from herself and bring her conspirator into question with the officer. But of course, we can't be sure of her intentions. Meanwhile, her interrogator is very cordial. It's likely that her being a young woman dealing with a young girl gives an early advantage when it comes to gaining the suspect's trust and compliance.
So, I need to know the story as to what happened today, because it's been quite a day, you know, and even stuff that happened, you know, yesterday. And I kind of know bits and pieces, but I don't know the full-on truth. And the only people that know, you know, really what happened are people that were in the place where it happened, okay? Your parents know that you're here talking to me, okay? And I'm glad they're so glad that you're safe. We were scared for you guys, okay?
Unlike Morgan, who is stoic and largely unbothered when discussing even violent subject matter, Anissa seems to be barely holding herself together while answering introductory questions about her life. And immediately after her rights have been read, she breaks down a bit.
And understanding is about rights. Are you willing to speak with me and tell me what happened today? Is that a yes? The silly thing about this was I didn't know I was in danger until after Morgan stabbed Peyton, or Bella, as people call her. They call her Bella? Okay. You go to school with Peyton? Yes, Bella? Okay.
This seems to be an unusual trigger, and while it may be genuine, it suggests there could be an act being played. It could be a diversionary or distraction technique. Granted, it could also just be a young girl overwhelmed by the reality that she's gotten in way over her head.
Can we start from the beginning so you guys, this was a birthday party, right? Or?
The interrogator moves herself closer to the suspect and leans forward, closing distance and uses open body language so as not to be imposing, offering reassurance and building trust. She also asks a very open-ended question. Tell me what happened, to get Anissa talking freely.
Okay, can you tell me what happened? So, there's this website called the Creepypasta Wiki. Okay. It's full of, like, horror stories that are meant to purposely scare you through like online literature and all that.
Okay.
And there's one of them called Slender Man. It's like really Slender Man. It's
Slender?
Slender Man.
Oh, Slender Man. Like a skinny guy.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we had these proxies or servants, as people call them.
Okay.
Basky and Teddy. And Morgan said, hey, Anissa, we should be proxies. And I was like, okay, how would we do that? And that was around end of December, beginning of January.
Okay.
What's interesting is that Anissa immediately jumped into talking about Slender Man when asked to explain what happened, while Morgan doesn't even mention him until way later in her interrogation. Perhaps this shows us where the two girls' priorities, understanding, and motives for the crime differ.
And a proxy again, what is a proxy? It's like a servant or like an apprentice.
Okay, and they're the servants of who?
The whichever they kind of don't have a choice. Slender's like the really big, he's like head of it all, supposedly.
Okay, so Slender's the big guy.
Yeah.
The top guy. And the proxies are his puppets.
Yes, that's how people put puppets.
Oh, okay. Boy, I never even heard this before. Okay.
This interrogator would later explain that she's never gone into an interview as blind as she had this one. She'd initially assumed the ordeal would be some petty fight over a boy. Never would she have expected the real motive behind the crime that Anissa is describing.
All right, so back in December or January, Morgan told you, like, hey, we should be proxies, type thing.
Yeah.
And you said what? Like,
I said, okay, how would we do that? And she said, we have to kill Bella.
Okay. Okay, and do you know why she said that? Like, why she said that?
Because we had to supposedly prove ourselves worthy to Slender.
Both girls seem entirely cooperative and willing to spill the beans with very little prompting. In fact, the lack of hesitation on Anissa's part suggests that something is very wrong here. We know she didn't think that Peyton survived the attack, so we can infer that she would believe she played a part in a murder. However, Anissa might be under the assumption that if she didn't do the actual stabbing, then at most she would only be a witness and not in any trouble, which is incorrect. We can also infer that there is a mental defect at work here, where the victim simply cannot comprehend the nature of seriousness of the crime on an adult level. This is a common problem with juvenile law, where children are often treated as smaller versions of adults. Aside from some limited U.S. Supreme Court rulings, juvenile law is a matter left to the states. With Morgan's interview, we're going to see a similar naivete.
So today they asked me to come in and talk to you a little bit about what's been going on with you. So it seems like you and your friends had something that happened this morning, and I'm not sure how far back that went. So I got to try to get an understanding sort of about what's all going on here with your friends. Okay. So but before I do that, I got to read you a couple questions.
Okay.
Okay. Have you ever had your rights read to you before?
Yes.
What was that for?
Earlier today, when I was in a car with the police officer.
Did you understand your rights then?
Yeah. Anissa had already told me them.
Anissa told you?
Uh-huh.
Morgan quickly agrees to talk and signs the form after being read her Miranda rights without really thinking about it, which is never a good move.
So what's going on with you? Why do you think you're here today?
Because Anissa and I ran off after hurting Bella.
Tell me what happened with Bella.
What do you mean?
The interrogator then similarly sets in with open-ended questions, prompting her to speak in an unguided fashion.
Tell me what happened when we first woke up this morning.
Anissa and I woke up at like 5:30 in the morning, and it was before Bella, so we went downstairs and we took quizzes on Quotab.
Mm-hmm.
And they were really weird. It was like, what
On what website?
Quotab.com.
Quotab?
It's a quiz website.
Is that QU?
OTEM. Wait, B.
Okay. So you're taking quizzes, and then what happened?
And then Bella woke up and came downstairs by us. And then we took more for this time.
Morgan and Anissa were obsessed with Quotev, and in fact, less than an hour before Peyton would be found bleeding on the sidewalk, Anissa attempted to ask Peyton a bizarre question that she claimed was from the quiz website. What would happen if someone came up to you and tried to stab you? Peyton, not reading too much into it at the time, simply replied, "Well, I would probably scream."
Okay, then what happened?
And then we went upstairs and played with Silly Putty.
Oh, who all went upstairs?
Bella, Anissa, and I.
Okay.
And then we played dress up, and I dressed up as Data. And, Anissa dressed up as, she called it a prostitute. It was sort of inappropriate.
Where did you find the clothes?
They were mine. That I'd collected over the years from, like, concerts and stuff and Halloween. And Bella was a princess. While Bella was changing into the pink dress, we kind of whispered, talked about it for like 3 seconds.
Sure. Whispered.
We're going to do it today at the park. That's what Morgan said. And then Anissa suggested that we get changed. And then, when Bella went to get changed, we sat and waited for her to finish. And then it was Anissa's turn. And so I had...
Morgan folds her arms between her body and the seat back during this part of the story. This demonstrates concealing behavior, perhaps because she omitted the conversation Anissa said they had at this point concerning killing Peyton at the park.
So I took it, and I opened it, and then I put it in the Silly Putty. And then she came back and she thought it was funny, and then she threw the Silly Putty at the ceiling. And she was like, wait, it's sticky now. And then since it was sticky now, we had to get it off of the ceiling, I think. They were also playing with like Silly Putty. We were downstairs again. Morgan was playing Sims, and Bella and I were playing with our Silly Putty.
Downstairs in the basement, or?
Give me funny party noises.
Okay.
And then I had to get changed out of my costume, and then Anissa had to go to the bathroom, so she came to the bathroom and I got changed in the shower, and then she insisted on applying lipstick. And then and then I was wearing lipstick, and she was wearing lipstick.
Mm-hmm. And then what happened?
And then we came back upstairs, and we played with my cat.
Then what?
Morgan pulls her arms into her shirt all the way, another indicator of furtive or concealing behavior.
And then Anissa told me to grab my things, and because it was time to go to the park. And then we took Bella to the park with us.
As the trio got ready to head out to David's park, Peyton noticed something very peculiar. Morgan was packing a large bag with granola bars, pictures, and clothes, and Peyton asked why in the world they need a supply bag for a trip to the nearby park. Morgan seemed unfazed and replied that they might need a snack, and they were off. Before leaving, though, Morgan grabbed one last thing, a knife, and tucked it into her waistband. Anissa described to Morgan subtly showing her that she had secured the knife while they were on their way to the park.
So there, so then I look at her like this.
Okay.
And then she nods to me, and then puts her jacket back down, and I kind of calmly walk towards the park. I was trying to stay calm, but I was like shaking a little bit, like I am now.
Okay. And why did you start shaking?
Because I was nervous.
What were
you nervous about most? Seeing a dead person, because the last time I saw a dead person, it was at a funeral and it was my uncle.
She's nervous in a self-centered way. In other words, only considering what she will personally experience. She has no empathy for what her victim will experience or endure. This is a common indicator of sociopathic behavior. Though taken alone, it is not enough to make a diagnosis.
We played around a little bit. Morgan kind of started freaking out a little bit, so I said, Bella, I need to talk to Morgan. She's freaking out a little bit. What was she freaking out about? Killing. She had never done that before. She stabbed apples before. Okay. It was like chopstick. Okay. But she never actually cut a flesh wound into somebody. How was she freaking out? What was she doing? She said, I can't do this. I'm too scared. You have to. Did Bella hear this? No, Bella was outside. I told her to go outside and play. Yeah, she was in the bathroom. And then Morgan started freaking out, so I had to hug her and calm her down.
Both suspects seem to be going back and forth between calm acceptance of their intended crime and panic in the face of the severity of what they were about to do.
So the three you went to the park?
Mm-hmm. And then we played on the slide for a little bit. We went in the bathroom. And then we were singing songs.
That's when things took a bizarre turn. While singing depressing songs in the bathroom, Morgan began to pace back and forth.
Was there something about her in the bathroom? Dying in the bathroom or something? Yeah, there was a drain for blood to go down, and then we were gonna sit her on the toilet, lock the door, and then leave for Nicolay. So that it would look like that A, she wasn't dead, and because like in the bathroom stall. Mm-hmm. So we were gonna do it down in the bathroom stall and sit her on the toilet, lock the door, crawl out, and walk.
Then the girls tried to tell Peyton to go to sleep.
From what I read on the creepypasta wiki, it's easier to kill people when they're either asleep or unconscious. And it's also easier if you do not look them in the eye. So I asked Bella if she could put herself to sleep. Is it okay if I can I get it? Are you getting chilly? Okay. Yeah, let me get you one. Thank you. Yeah, of course.
This statement alone shows a lot of planning and devious thought going into the crime. This level of detail will be used in court against Anissa.
Because, when you look into a person's eyes, you can see yourself. And you don't want to be killing yourself, supposedly, so you don't look in their eyes. And then when they're sleeping or unconscious, they can't scream, and they go around to make it harder for you. Okay. So then Morgan called me over to where she was standing, which was by the sink. Okay. So then she said, can you kind of knock her out? Because when I stand up for her every now and then, because Morgan's prime target for bullies at school, especially Devin. Okay.
It's very interesting how she even strives to tie her violence against innocent Peyton into talking about how she defends Morgan from bullies at school.
Anisha tried to knock Bella out. Bella got all mad and stuff, but I was pacing in circles, singing a song for Anisha.
Why did you guys pick the bathroom to do it?
I didn't pick it, so I don't know. I guess it is closed off from the rest of the park, but it would be very, very easy. I think she has some flaws in her thinking skills. So, obviously, I didn't choose the location.
Eventually, Anissa attempted to trick Peyton into getting inside a bathroom stall. She told her there was vandalism in the toilet bowl, and though Peyton didn't really believe her, she still wanted to see it. The three entered the bathroom stall, and Morgan quickly latched the door behind them. The truth is, there's no vandalism, she said. Morgan then directed Peyton to sit in the corner of the stall and held her arms back before saying to Anissa, I thought we agreed you would do this." At some point during this tense trip to the bathroom, Anissa did stand over Peyton before striking her head against the wall in an attempt to knock her out.
So I kind of went like that to her forehead and banged her head up against the concrete. Okay. And then she was just like, "Excuse you," and pushed my hand away. So I said sorry, and I got bored and I needed something to do. Plus my hands got really finicky. I lied.
So do you think that hurt her, or did it seem like it hurt her?
It didn't seem like it.
So you hit her slightly in the forehead and her head hit the wall. And you were doing this to knock her out so you guys could kill her in there?
Yeah.
Basically, and you asked her to fall asleep so you could kill her in there?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't like screaming. That's what parents can't be syndrome.
It's clear at this point that Anissa was more than willing to forcefully render her friend unconscious, just to make the killing easier. The self-centric behavior is fascinating. However, Morgan and Anissa hesitated from whatever they had planned next, and left Peyton for the next stall over to talk. Peyton sat and waited. It's unclear exactly what happened to change their plan, but Morgan apparently explained a bit of the creepypasta lore to Peyton.
And then, like, I couldn't do it in there. Morgan kind of explained, like, Slender and Proxy and all that to her, to Bella while we were in the bathroom stall.
So Morgan hands you the knife?
And told me to keep it concealed.
Where is Bella at that time?
We went in one of the bigger stalls. So Bella, like, say the door is here. Bella was standing in the corner like this. And then Morgan pulls her forward, and then Morgan crouches behind her, and Bella crouches in front of her. And then Morgan held Bella's arms back. Like,
what was she trying to do?
She was like trying to restrain her from moving.
And what did Bella think of it?
Her facial expression was confused, but she didn't say anything.
Eventually, Morgan stood in front of Peyton, staring at her with her hand rubbing against the bag. This time, Anissa was holding her hands behind her back. But moments later, they strangely said, "Just go out on the playground and just play." Peyton had enough of their strange games and went outside as they suggested. However, Morgan and Anissa stayed in the bathroom, and when they exited 5 minutes later, they had weird looks on their faces, like they had just done something.
So then after that, I say, "Hey guys, why don't we go take a walk around the block?" That's when I pointed out to Morgan the bushes, the trees and bushes and all that, and say, "You can take her in there and do the deed."
Doing the deed is another phrase Anissa says to psychologically disconnect herself from the idea of taking another person's life.
After we go into the woods, we say we're going to play a hide and seek. And Morgan is going to be a seeker. So we hide. I tell Bella to lay down face first in the dirt.
So you
on her
suggested,
stomach.
okay, so you suggested to take a walk around the block, and you pointed out the woods to Morgan and said,
"We can do the deed there."
okay.
And then she says, "I'm not laying on my stomach in dirt. It's all squishy and there are twigs and sharp rocks everywhere."
So you're going to play hide and seek, right? Play hide and seek, and then she was supposed to be the seeker, so to keep her eyes from being to see where you guys ran, you wanted her to lay down in the dirt?
No, Morgan was the seeker, and Bella and I were hiding.
Okay, so you told her a place to hide. And why did you want her to lay down in the dirt?
So that I could sit on her chest so that I could pin her down and get it done and over with, and then we could leave.
You're gonna pin her down?
Morgan told me to pin her down.
Okay. And
so she said no, so I kind of pushed her forward and sat on her hip, and then she said, ow, I can't breathe, ow, ow, ow. Then I got off because she was making a lot of noise.
Was she kneeling already or something? Or?
Yeah, she was kneeling and then I pushed her. She was kneeling like this.
Okay, hiding.
Thing with flowers and all that.
Okay.
I was standing right here. I pushed her over.
Okay.
So like, she's like this now.
Okay.
And then I sit right here on her hip while she's like that.
Okay.
And then she started complaining that she couldn't breathe, so I got off of her because she was making a lot of noise.
Okay. Okay. And what happened next?
And I told Morgan that she's not laying down, and then she said, tackle her and I'll stab her. And then,
Now, there was a time when Morgan gave you the knife.
and said that she couldn't do it.
When was that?
It was like before
Heidi?
it was like after I tackled Bella and sat on her hip.
Okay. So then, so you tell Morgan she's not laying down, is that what it happened?
And then she said, okay, tackle. Okay, tackle her. And then I tackle her,
Yeah.
I get up, and then Morgan hands me the knife and says, I can't do it. You know where all the soft spots are. And, like, I only know where soft spots are because I used to watch Doomsday Preppers, and it said that a hard blow to, like, the stomach or the throat with, like, a sucker in between your fingers can do some serious damage.
A sucker meaning like a knife or something?
No, a sucker being an actual lollipop.
Oh. Okay.
And then she jumps on Bella and she held her to the floor.
Where did Anissa do this?
Mm-hmm.
Where did this happen at?
In some trees.
How'd you guys end up by the trees?
Because we were going to look at, like, plants and stuff.
How far off the road was it?
Not very. And then we stabbed her
And you stopped her.
with a knife.
You stopped her from what?
Huh?
You stopped her from what?
A knife?
How did you stop her?
I said stab.
Oh, stabbed her?
Mm-hmm.
So, this happened in the woods.
It wasn't in the woods, it was just a little group of trees.
Morgan admits to the stabbing in the same matter-of-fact tone she described her morning activities. Her demeanor is almost as if she's talking about something make-believe, which points to her mental illness. Anissa provided a bit more detail about what led up to the stabbing.
Yeah. And then I tell her she has to do it and to go ballistic, and then she asked when, and I said whatever you want, and she said I'm doing it when you want me to.
So she, so hold on, so she gives you the knife and says you do it.
And then I give it back to her and say, you do it, go ballistic. And she said, okay, I'll go ballistic when you say you want me to.
Anissa apparently told Morgan she was too squeamish to do it herself. She explained that Peyton didn't hear this horrifying conversation because she was playing with flowers. There's clearly some mental disease going on here. Normal people don't act like this as far as we know. And so, despite appearing outwardly sane, Anissa also has some mental disease or defect that will likely factor into her trial proceedings.
I told her that I didn't care when she did it. She said, whatever. So I started walking away, and then like when I was 5 feet away, I said now, and Morgan said, don't be afraid, I'm only a little kitty cat, and jumped on top of Bella and stabbed her repeatedly.
Okay.
Like, she told me that she got her in the lung, right here 6 times, and then like in the leg a few times.
Okay.
And then she walked away covered in blood, and then Peyton started screaming, I trusted you, I hate you all. And then I told her to lay down and be quiet because I didn't want attention being drawn. So I said lay down and be quiet, you'll lose blood slower. So then she laid down. Morgan tried to clean her wounds with Elise.
Did she try to get up?
Yeah, she tried to get up. She said that she couldn't see, she couldn't walk, and that she couldn't breathe.
Peyton was saying this?
Yes.
So after Morgan stabbed Peyton, did Morgan just get off of her and start walking away, or?
Morgan got off of her when I turned around, and Peyton was wobbling around, holding up trees, saying, "I hate you, get help."
Okay.
And that's when I told her to lay down and be quiet. You lose blood fat slower.
Okay. But really, you just wanted her not to draw attention?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So then,
when Peyton was being stabbed, was she laying on the ground, or?
Morgan pushed her to the ground face first, and went ballistic.
Okay.
And then,
so Peyton somehow gets herself to stand up.
But she's wobbling, and then she collapses near a ditch, and then she says, "I can't see," and she starts kind of crying and whimpering a little bit. Then, and then Morgan tries to clean a big wound on her leg with part of a leaf, but it didn't help that much.
Why was she trying to do that?
Because before this, Peyton was Morgan's best friend. Morgan was Peyton's only friend. So it was hard for her to do that.
Okay.
And it was really bad.
Okay.
The interrogator later looped back to ask why Morgan said the bizarre kitty cat line before the attack.
I said no. Morgan said, "Don't be afraid. I'm only a little kitty cat," and then lunged for Peyton with ballistic.
What do you think she meant by that? Don't worry, I'm just a little kitty cat?
She said that she was going to draw cat whiskers on her face if she became a proxy, and that would be her catchphrase, like with Jeff the Killer and to go to sleep.
So did you guys talk about doing this beforehand?
Anisha told me we had to.
Why?
Because she said that he'd kill our families.
Who's he?
A man. I didn't know him, but Anisha knew him.
How is she doing?
I don't know. Anisha told me about him.
Morgan's repetition of the facts remained very simplistic and emotionless, as if recalling the gruesome act doesn't sway her at all.
So when you guys went back into the woods, did Peyton know anything about, or Bella know anything about this?
No.
Where did you guys get the knife from?
My kitchen.
Your kitchen?
Anisha did.
So who left the house with it?
I think Anisha did. It was in the bag.
It's interesting to note that Morgan says Anissa was carrying the knife in the bag, while Anissa previously claimed that Morgan had it in her waistband.
Anisha packed the bag. We both packed the bag. We knew about this since December. One day she just told me that we had to.
What do you mean she told you you had to?
I mean, she told us we had to kill her.
Who did?
Anisha.
When she says us, what do you mean us? Who's us? You mean the two of you, or is there somebody else?
There's nobody else.
Did Bella say anything when you guys were stabbing her?
She said two things, but it was afterwards. She said, "I trusted you," and she said, "I hate you." And she kept whispering, "I can't see," over and over and over and over again. I can still hear it.
After the merciless stabbing, the girls lied to Peyton that they were going to get help.
And then she started crying with no tears, but you could hear her cry. And then
what were you guys doing, watching her?
We were slowly backing away because we took the opportunity to run. Like, she couldn't see us, so we took the opportunity to run.
Did you tell her you were gonna go get help?
Mm-hmm.
Did you want to actually get her help?
No. I kind of wanted to, but I knew Morgan wouldn't want me to. Because, like, we've planned this for a while.
Flight from the scene of a crime is an unsurprisingly often used indicator of guilt.
So Adam, so you guys, how many times do you think you stabbed her?
I don't know. It happened very quickly. All I heard was screaming.
How many times did you guess?
I don't know.
So you ran through the woods or did you run up the road?
We ran up the road. We were running and then we hid in tall, very tall grass. Not the tall grass that we were found in. And then these police officers showed up, so of course we hid.
Did you know which way you went then? What else did you see on your...
Well, Anissa said that we had to go to Walmart to refill our water bottles, and we did.
Which Walmart?
I don't know.
Is it like a food store one?
No.
The one over...
It's a huge one.
On West Avenue?
Mm-hmm. So we refilled our water bottles and went to the bathroom and washed the blood off our hands. Will I regret giving you this information later?
You know, this information will be used to try to get you some help so you don't have to hear those screams and don't have to worry about hurting anybody anymore.
Okay.
That's my goal here, okay? So we gotta figure out how we're gonna do that.
Peyton would drag herself out of the woods to the sidewalk where she was found at 9:53 a.m., just 20 minutes after the attack. She had severe lacerations and punctures throughout her entire body and was in extreme pain. She couldn't talk as it hurt too badly and had to answer most of the questions from law enforcement with a nod or a shake of the head. Her injuries were life-threatening. One stab wound to her chest missed a major artery near the heart by a measly 1 millimeter. A doctor later emphasized that if the knife had gone the width of a human hair further, she would not have survived. There was fluid around her heart and an injury to her liver, and she was rushed off to intensive care. You'll notice that Morgan is already starting to paint herself as a follower in this crime by suggesting that Anissa told her they had to do this.
So when do you think it was that you guys started talking about killing Peyton? You told me before December.
I don't know when it was. It wasn't my idea.
Was it Anissa's idea?
I think so, yeah.
So you guys have been planning this a while?
Since December. She was my best friend since 4th grade.
Who was?
Peyton.
So why did you pick Peyton?
I didn't pick her.
Who picked her?
Whoever Anissa was talking about. She made it seem necessary, and I figured if it was necessary, then I would.
So the person that talked to Anissa told him who to do it?
Yep. It was more of a message. I don't know. She didn't go very in-depth.
So what else have you guys been doing to plan for this? Just talking about it? The two of you? Has anybody else known about it?
No.
So how did you know how to... what were you trying to do with her when you stabbed her?
Kill her. I might as well just say it. We were trying to kill her. I don't know why it was necessary that it was her, but it seemed very necessary.
I don't know why it was necessary, but it seemed necessary. This statement suggests Morgan has little to no volitional control over her own thoughts.
So why did you want to kill Peyton?
Huh?
Why did you want to kill Peyton?
It's not that we wanted to.
Before you said it was necessary?
Mm-hmm.
Why was it necessary?
Because...
The interrogator revisits this point, but Morgan only answers, because. I can't figure out what part of the illness this represents, but it's just bizarre from a legal perspective. Criminals almost always have a reason for their crime, some way to justify it and square it internally. Here, we don't see any of that at all. Yet at certain points in the interview, Morgan does express a fear that something bad might happen to her family. There's no logic present here. Whatever is going on, we are seeing the manifestations of a malfunctioning brain. However, when we compare her story with Anissa's, It is clear to see that both girls are making their partner out to be the leader behind the scheme. This is very important because although both girls are blatantly admitting to trying to kill their friend, determining who conceived of the plan versus who just took part can establish the nature of different charges against different suspects.
Is she really into the creepypasta? Is she like, yeah. So you said, okay, well, how do we do that? And she said, well, we have to kill Bella, meaning Peyton. Yes.
If you're on the internet a lot, or at least you were in the 2010s, there's a good chance you already know who Slender Man is. But if not, here's a quick rundown on everything you need to know about the infamous horror figure. The creepypasta website consisted of internet urban legends and horror stories intended to scare those who read them. Essentially, these were fake stories meant to scare kids. But for Morgan and Anissa, these stories would begin to manifest into something real. Slender Man is a fictional supernatural character that originated in photoshopped images on these Something Awful forums, often depicted creepily standing behind children. He quickly spread as a meme and gained popularity, along with internet lore. He's often described as a thin, tall, humanoid creature with a featureless face. There was also a popular game where the player would have to collect notes in a dark forest during the middle of the night while avoiding Slender Man. When I first heard about this case, I actually assumed the girls chose the woods for their attack to imitate the game's eerie setting. But it appears to just be a coincidence that this ended up being the scene of the crime, since it wasn't their first choice. Regardless, based on the online fictional stories that spawned from the meme, Morgan and Anissa believed that Slender Man abducted children, killed people, and lived in a mansion in the forest. It didn't click that these stories were fake. They believed they were real, and that's where the trouble all started. They wanted to prove the skeptics wrong.
And so she said, well, we have to kill Bella to prove ourselves to the Slender? Yes. And what did you think of this when she was telling you? I was surprised, but also kind of excited because I wanted proof that he existed because there were a bunch of skeptics out there saying that he didn't exist. And then there's a bunch of photos online and sources online saying that they did see him. Okay. So a lot of people believe that Slender actually exists. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so there's a lot of talk about this on the internet, I bet, right? Yeah. Okay. And so you at first thought... At first I was kind of surprised and didn't want to do it, but later I didn't want to leave Morgan all by herself out here because who knows if any creeps are out here. So I decided to go along, tag along, so I decided to let it be. Kind of prove skeptics wrong. Okay. So did you think that you actually had to kill somebody to do it? Yeah. Like for real? Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, and then there's another killer called Jeff the Killer on the Creepypasta Wiki, but he's actually a real person, Jeffrey Woods. He supposedly murdered his whole family, so we're there found that out, and we're just like, okay, so we know at least Jeff is real. Okay. So we got our hopes up and thought that everybody else was real. Okay. And then Jeff is called what online? Jeff the Killer. And supposedly he went insane, so he burned off his eyelids and took a butcher knife and cut a big smile in his face. And his supposedly long black hair about down to here, and ice blue eyes. That's what the wiki said also.
At times, it is unclear if Anissa thought she was involved in a sort of game or a real life-or-death situation. There is some question as to Anissa's ability to understand what she had agreed to prior to the attempted murder, and after the fact, her comprehension seems to be in question. Her explanations, while accurate, are also couched in very passive terms, like tag along. It's likely she is emotionally distancing herself from the act of attempted murder and minimizing the appearance of any affirmative actions in furtherance of the crime. As she continues to describe Jeff the Killer and other figures, it becomes obvious from Anissa's tone of voice and sincerity that she has bought into this meme 100%, even choosing to compare herself to his appearance.
And he's known to exist. News reports say that he exists.
If you go on Google Images and search Jeffrey Woods news article, a bunch of news articles will come up, and then there'll be a picture of, a 17-year-old boy with, who kind of looks like me, but it was a black and white picture, and he had kind of the same hair as me also.
Okay. Did you cut your hair to make it look like him?
No.
No.
It was just coincidence.
The interrogator asks if Anissa cut her hair to look like Jeff the Killer. The reason for this is to establish if this was a copycat crime, trying to be like Jeff Woods.
And so you guys knew that Jeff the Killer, an actual killer in this triangle, exists, so you thought it would be exciting to find out, hey, if we can be a proxy and prove and do this, kill Bella, then we know that Slender exists.
If we saw him, actually, we think we see him sometimes.
Okay.
Like when we were walking up to where we were going, we saw him, like, I saw him out of the corner of my eye on this side.
Okay.
And then Morgan said she heard a twig crack when no one was moving.
Did you think that you guys killed Morgan? Bella?
Yeah.
She has no shortage of information to relay about the creepypasta characters.
Okay.
Like on a triangle chart, Slender would be up here.
Okay.
Then be like killers and then proxies.
Okay, so killers outrank the proxies.
Yeah. And then there's another creepypasta that's supposed to be really powerful. It's like Zalgo or something. It's supposedly a demon with 7 mouths that speak in 6 different tongues, but the 7th mouth doesn't speak until the world is about to end or something. That's what the wiki told me.
Leading up to the stabbing, Morgan had even begun incessantly emailing Peyton creepypasta characters, like Jeff the Killer, telling her they were going to come to her window while she slept and kill her. She even began emailing her newspaper articles in an attempt to convince Peyton they were real, and fearing she would tell her mother, Morgan told her, "You tell your mother nothing." Peyton became so disturbed by these emails that she began to sleep intentionally facing away from her bedroom window, with the blinds closed and window locked, even though her room became uncomfortably warm. Despite Morgan's warning, she told her mother, who researched the characters online with her, to prove to her they posed no threat, as they're fake. But Anissa and Morgan, on the other hand, continued to believe they were real. With this background knowledge, it's no surprise that watching Morgan interact with the interrogator shows us more examples of how little grasp she has on reality.
This is going to get me arrested, isn't it? I won't take back any of it.
I think that's what's important here, is to tell the truth. This year.
At the beginning.
So are you going to use a hammer to hurt somebody, or?
No, it was an accident.
Accident?
We've been over it. I went over it with the principal. I figure you have access to all those files if you need more information, so I might as well tell you.
You're a pretty smart girl.
Morgan's mother has come forward to say that her child has lacked empathy since a young age. For instance, when the family showed her the movie Bambi, they were worried she'd be devastated when the mother died. Instead, Morgan apparently just said, "Run, Bambi, run. Get out of there. Save yourself." She wasn't sad about it at all. This example alone might be a one-off, but Morgan's mother claims she can think of many examples of times Morgan hasn't reacted like you would expect a little girl to.
I read a lot of books about things like this in the library.
His mother claims she can think of many examples of times Morgan hasn't reacted like you would expect a little girl to.
I read a lot of books about things like this in the library.
What kind of books do you read?
I read a lot of books. I read medical dictionaries, I read Harry Potter, I read Star Trek books, I read just random books that I get from this one section about like the police and things.
So, just getting back a little bit, so what, Anissa told you that somebody told her or that it was necessary to kill?
I was confused a little bit.
What do you mean you're confused?
I didn't really understand what we were doing, but I was the one who, final kill. I don't know if she's alive though.
She's alive.
Crying, so.
What do you mean you were confused?
I mean, I didn't know exactly why we were. I really didn't want to make Anissa mad. It's, hard enough to make friends. I don't want to lose them over something like this. And I didn't know what happened if I didn't. It's like, free, and it's our fault. And she said before we take full responsibility.
Having a hard time making and keeping friends likely also stems from Morgan's psychological struggles. As the interrogator starts prompting her to repeat her story, we can see more examples of her lacking social grace.
So where did you guys get the knife from?
My kitchen, I just said that.
Okay. And who put it in the bag?
I think Anissa told me to. Anissa might as well. It's sort of foggy, because I've been trying to block it out.
So you're not sure who put it?
Morgan is already indicating impatience with the interrogator. Her statement that her recollection of the knife is foggy because she's trying to block it out is probably another symptom of her mental illness, sliding towards possible psychosis.
Whose purse was that you guys had today?
It was my mommy's, but she gave it to me, I think, in like first grade for a dress up.
So you guys end up in your house. You guys get the knife from your house.
Mm-hmm.
Then you guys go down to the park.
My parents had nothing to do with this, I promise.
I believe you. They seem like very nice people.
It's fascinating how quickly Morgan jumps in here to defend her parents. It seems like she thought mentioning her mom's purse would somehow throw them under suspicion. And even as out of touch with reality as Morgan is, that protective instinct towards her family was at the forefront of her mind.
So you guys have been, when you say you guys have been planning this from December, when did you decide that you're going to do this today?
In December, she said.
But how did you know that May 31st, 2014 was?
We didn't know it was going to be May 31st. We knew it was going to be at my birthday sleepover. You have no idea how difficult it was not to tell anyone.
She starts speaking very quickly to respond, her tone exuding impatience with the officer. She doesn't seem to realize that this is inappropriate behavior for the setting.
She told I wanted to be locked up so that I couldn't hurt her, but that time passed and now I'm in here because we were careless. I knew this would happen. I knew we'd get in trouble.
Morgan is absolutely unconcerned about the victim at this point, and is even trying to shift blame to Anissa. Overall, she seems very cold and disconnected.
So you want to get locked up so you would get in trouble?
I didn't really genuinely want to be locked up, but at one point I sort of did. It seemed...
So you guys decided a while ago that on the sleepover night that this is when you do it?
Yeah.
Why do you think it was your sleepover night that you're...
Because we would all be together. It was a flawless plan, actually.
Despite Morgan's claims that Anissa told her they had to do it, Anissa made it out as if she couldn't even watch while the crime took place.
So Morgan and I were also debating who does the deed, and at first it was me, but like I said, I was too squeamish and said, no, you do it. So Morgan said, whatever you want. So, like, I finally just had enough and said it now, because I was starting to get a little freaked out. And then Morgan jumped on top of Bella and started stabbing her repeatedly, and that's when I turned around because I couldn't stand to see that.
Okay.
And then, the whole time, Peyton was screaming in agony. Saying stuff like, I hate you guys, I'll never forgive you, and I trusted you. Still, and, sorry. So we told her we were gonna get help, but we really weren't. We were gonna run and let her pass away.
She uses yet another euphemism, pass away, to avoid facing the reality that they essentially left her to die. At this point, Anissa has made a full indication of who committed the crime, whether truthful or not, Morgan. She has also identified the means, opportunity, and motive of the crime, and therefore a confession has already been cemented. At the very least, she could easily be found guilty of conspiracy to commit murder from this information alone. Further interrogation will determine additional charges or reframe the crime and cause a modification of the charges. At one point, she shows a blood stain on her clothing, believed to have gotten there shortly after the stabbing. You see, Anissa claims that Peyton had gotten up and tried to walk towards a street, stumbling. Anissa grabbed her arm and directed her away, not wanting anyone to see her. Back in Morgan's interrogation, she continues to be incredibly blunt. So many of the things she says sound straight from a horror movie script, instead of a thought a 12-year-old girl would organically conjure up. Perhaps this is an extension of her earlier tendencies to seek attention by acting as out there as possible.
Why did you guys go over by the woods?
Because we knew what we had to do. We led her there and tricked her. The last thing she said was to me was, I trusted you. And then she said, I hate you. And then we lied to her. Anissa said that she'd go get help. I didn't have anything to do with the lying, Mom. That was all Anissa. She said we were going to go get help.
How did you trick her to get down there?
We said that we were going to go bird watching. People who trust you become very gullible. And it was sort of sad.
Again, we see the mental illness symptoms in the form of social relationship issues and flattened or non-emotional tone when speaking about disturbing subjects.
Not like offensive, well, that's sad, but it was sad to do this.
So you guys told her you were going down there to bird watch, and then what happened?
And then we said that we were going to play hide and seek, and then Anissa jumped her, and then it was like, it happened really fast, and I keep trying to forget.
I keep trying to forget represents attempting to detach from reality, which can be associated with schizophrenia.
So you want to play hide and seek?
Mm-hmm. Because normally we like playing hide and seek, because hide and seek's a fun game. I like hiding.
So and then Anissa jumped her?
Mm-hmm. And she said Morgan, now. Well, actually she said Kitty, because our code names for each other were Scorpion and Kitty. She was Scorpion because she tends to be aggressive, things like that.
So she said Kitty now, and what does that mean?
My name was Kitty because, well, she sort of, I have 4 cats at home, and she says that I act like a cat sometimes.
So when she said Kitty now, what did she do?
Then we stabbed her.
Who stabbed her first?
I think, Anissa stabbed her first, and then I continued, and then, like, she was like, Morgan, make sure she doesn't escape, and then I was like,
So you think that it was Anissa first?
Mm-hmm.
You sure?
Yeah. Not really. Sort of confusing because I've been trying to block out the screams all day.
Things are confusing. I've been trying to block out the screams. Shows another symptom here. Disorganized thinking, psychosis.
So how many times, so then how did you get the knife from Anissa?
She sort of just shoved it into my hand and there it was. And then I didn't know what I did. It sort of just happened.
These exaggerated, odd physical motions probably also stem from her mental illness.
It didn't feel like anything. It was like air.
So she put the knife in your hand, and what'd you do?
Then I just continued to. You know what happened, didn't you? Didn't you?
I actually really don't. Somebody else is like her. They continued to stab her?
Mm-hmm. And then we decided that, and then Nisa said that it was enough, and then Bella was like, I can't see, and then I said, I'm sorry. This had to happen, and she was like, why? And then I said that it was necessary. I can't explain why. Please don't cut off my head.
Nobody's gonna cut off your head.
Morgan asked to not cut off her head. Clearly symptom material here. She may be having a precursor to a psychotic episode where she will stop understanding what's real and what is not. At this point, the interrogator has presumably already reasoned that Morgan is suffering from some mental illness or disease, and he will likely not engage with any odd behavior she may have in order to keep the questions moving forward and avoid exacerbating the symptoms. It's possible he has training in dealing with those suffering mental illness, as his answers to her strange questions seem to be worded very carefully.
Are you going to put me in prison and I'm going to rot and die?
Morgan's rot and die comment goes to the persecution psychosis aspect of schizophrenia.
I don't think that you're going to prison, and I don't think you're gonna rot and die there. We probably gotta have somebody talk to you and try to figure out what the best circumstances for you to make sure that you don't Detective Casey.
Notice how Morgan visibly jumps when hearing the phone ringtone. Increased sensitivity to stimuli is a part of the disease. Even Morgan's behavior when left alone in the interrogation room is intriguing. She sings the same Owl City song 2 different times, one which seems to be about mental health struggles. The song features lyrics like, I wish I had covered all my tracks completely, and is that the light at the far end of the tunnel or just the train? The lyrics towards the end cover similar subject matter. The song talks about how help is on the way, so perhaps this is Morgan's way of trying to self-comfort. She also whispers to herself, fiddles with, and appears to keep dosing herself with her inhaler, traces shapes on the wall with her fingers, hides inside of her shirt, and even pokes a hole in one of her booty socks. The whispering could potentially be her hearing voices in her head and trying to speak with them. But of course, we can't say for sure. When she's brought food, she takes out a few fries, pushes the rest away, and then eats off the table. This may be representative of some sort of dissonant social cognition deficit. Later on, she dumps everything on the table and eats while pacing around the room, which is likely a sign of physical agitation or motor restlessness, which can be signs of either schizophrenia or bipolar disorder. Morgan also gets up, goes under the table, and then walks around the room, touching things in some sort of pattern behavior. It's yet another classic sign of schizophrenia, though the underlying cause could have multiple origins. At one point, she even indicates indecision on whether she would like to see her parents.
I'm not sure if it's possible or not, but did you want to see your mom and dad in a little bit here, or not really?
Maybe.
You want to think about it for a little bit?
It's certainly not the answer you'd expect from a little girl from the upper Midwest, and could potentially indicate home problems, although this isn't clear, especially when we take lines like this into consideration.
So when you got picked up, there was the purse, and what was inside the purse?
I don't remember what was all inside the purse. We put pictures of our family inside the purse because Anissa said we might never ever get to come back.
Next, Morgan and Anissa will talk about what they did in the hours after the crime.
Did you do anything to try to help her?
No.
No.
There was nothing I could have done.
Did you think she was dead?
Oh no.
Why don't you
She
think
told me not to touch her, so I stopped touching her. I did try to help though. I tried to at least clean up her wounds so that she might have been able to escape.
There are countless possibilities of ways that the girls could have gotten help. So Morgan's response that there was nothing she could have done except try to clean Peyton's wounds is the result of either willful ignorance or a very bizarre thought process.
Why did you try to clean up her wounds?
It was a large relief, but she said, no, just don't touch me. I'm sorry, that must have sounded offensive.
The girls' accounts of their escape and not getting help goes to consciousness of guilt and can be used in court to show that they knew right from wrong and understood their actions, which could potentially be used to limit or negate an insanity plea.
No, I just remember that we went forward and forward and forward, and then we passed a bunch of buildings, and we went through downtown Waukesha, we went everywhere, and actually we were singing the whole time. We took turns singing songs to each other. We were surprisingly calm, actually. It was like we hadn't just killed someone, or thought that we killed someone or stabbed anyone.
This was the point where Morgan alluded specifically to Slender Man for the first time in her interview.
And we went into a few like ditches with forests and trees. And I remember we tried to find Slender Man.
Try to find who?
Slender.
Who's Slender Man?
He's this tall, faceless man who preys on children. Because we were by a forest and we couldn't help ourselves.
So he's a tall, faceless man?
Mm-hmm.
Why aren't you trying to find him?
What?
Why aren't you trying to find him?
Because Anisha said he could help us. I sort of thought that he might kill.
Starter kit command block.
Using commands for any type of service. Whatever yours is, if you're 6, 7, and 8, you want to go to this last one right here, guys. And what you want to do is you want to apply, or let me see. Yeah, you want to add a 5 there. So you want to do when you place your last tilde, then you want to do another tilde. So we're gonna do space, tilde, space, tilde. And then mine is 5, but whatever yours is, just go ahead and do it. I would just recommend doing 5 because when I do some other numbers, it kind of messes up a little bit. But just do 5 just to be safe, and then we'll do tilde right up to that 5, and boom. So that.
What's going on, people? Justin Rothel here, and welcome back to another video. And in today's video I'll be showing you how to make a self-refilling automatic starter kit on your Minecraft Bedrock Edition mode. This is very easy to make. It needs one,
and after that you want to change the block types.
Hey guys, Jesse101 here, and welcome back to another video. In this video, we're yet again in our tutorial log, because we're looking at tutorial number 15, auto-refilling chests. So yeah guys, I've made a very simple, is it even a system? It's only a system that uses one command block, and you can use it to make auto-refilling chests. And yeah, all this armor does work, and yeah, it's pretty cool. So as an example, I made like a starter factions kit, I guess, with starter armor, starter tools, and starter food, I guess, and torches, rules, and a bed. And yeah, every 4 seconds this chest refreshes, so you can get new items from it every 4 seconds. And if I read the rules, yeah, but you can actually put information in the book and all of that. It saves MPT because the whole entire chest is getting cloned. And yeah, it's pretty self-explanatory, guys. So I'm going to get straight into showing you how the commands work for this. Also guys, just before we get into the commands, if you do like my content and you want to see more videos like this in the future, feel free to leave a like and even subscribe. You can always change your mind later if you want to unsubscribe, and yeah, it's free. Okay guys, for the commands, I'm just going to show you how this works. So if I break this, you can see that there's a chest under the emerald block, and a command block. So basically, if I destroy that emerald block, I can open up this chest. So this entire chest is being cloned 2 blocks above, over here, every 4 seconds. So basically, every 80 ticks, which is 4 seconds, 1 tick is 20 seconds, right? So every 4 seconds, the chest is cloned like this. So tilde, tilde 1, tilde, tilde, tilde 1, tilde, 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 tilde 3, tilde. You need to make sure that it's exactly like this vertically for the command to work, and you should put it on repeat and always active. Basically, this means 1 Y position above, one Y position above. So it's cloning the chest 1 Y position above this command block. one Y position above. So it's cloning the chest 1 Y position above this command block to 3 Y positions above, which is 1, 2, 3 over here. So yeah, that's basically how that works. Also guys, make sure you put it on at least 20 ticks, so it clones at least once a second, or even longer. I would recommend doing it on like 80 or 50, 80 or 100 ticks, sorry, because that's the most optimal amount of ticks for me. Because if you were to make it like 0 ticks, then as you can see right now, it's difficult to get stuff out sometimes. Like that. I couldn't get that accent. See, sometimes you can't actually pick stuff up when it's in 0 ticks. And also it's a lot easier to get like lots of food and lots of items. So having it on a cooldown actually makes it less OP. And yeah. So that's basically it guys. I'm just going to fix this real quick. Thank you guys for watching the video, and if you'd like to see more content like this in the future, feel free to leave a like and subscribe. And yeah, that's basically it guys. Thank you for watching, and I'm out. See ya!
Welcome to how to make infinite chests in Minecraft. So everyone, welcome back to a new tutorial. My name is Mr. Ikerprop, and today I'll show you how to create different infinite containers. Now as you can see right here, we've got a large variety around us, ranging from infinite containers next to a wall to double chest infinite container next to a wall and a trap chest on top of a floor. But let me go over each and every one in full detail. Now let's start off with the most simple design we have over here, which is the container next to a wall design, and it can use any container that gives off a redstone comparator output like this. And let me show you how this works. So basically we've got our chest or container in front, and when we take out items we get kicked out of the chest and the chest will get refilled. So when we empty out this chest, this comparator will turn off, making this redstone torch turn on, and that redstone torch will activate our command block, which will clone this back chest all the way to the front over here. Now this is extremely simple, and as you can see, when we fill out some extra things into our chest and go into the front and open it up, you can see that it clearly works. Now you can put any items into these containers that you'd like, and all of the other containers are using the same redstone and command block mechanics as well. Now over here we've got a infinite brewing stand, and when we get rid of the potions it will be refilled automatically from this back brewing stand, because the command block clones the back brewing stand to the front, and all of the other containers work as well in the same way. Now on this side we've got a double chest setup. This one is a little bit more complicated because of the cloning command, but I will explain that in detail once I get to the tutorial part. And of course when I get rid of all of the items, which says of course subscribe, I get kicked out of the chest as well, and it works. And from the redstoning point of view it is exactly the same as this one right here. Now the last two designs are trap chests only, and they can be placed on top of any floor, and we can create the redstone mechanics underneath the floor like this. And it can only be used with a trap chest and not any other container, because trap chests give off redstone through a block like this. And it works also a little different than all of the other wall containers, meaning that when we get rid of all of the items we won't get kicked out of the chest automatically. And when we close off the chest, only then will the items be put back into the chest. So without further ado, let's start off with the first design, which is right behind me, the single container wall design. Now what you need for this design is a chest or any other container that gives us a redstone output. You need a wall block behind the container, then we need a redstone comparator, another block, a redstone torch, a command block, and another chest. Now this can only be done on worlds with cheats on or on servers where command blocks have been turned on and where you are an OP, so you can give yourself a command block. Now if for some reason you've built this on your server and it doesn't work, then you want to go into your server properties file and check if command blocks have been turned on so that command blocks can be used on your server, otherwise it will not work. Anyway, let's start off the wall design by giving ourselves a command block. So type in /give @p command block and use tab to autofill the suggested like this. Then we are going to place down a chest and then the wall behind there like this. We are going to place down a redstone comparator next to the chest next to the wall. And then we're going to place down another block, a redstone torch, a command block in here. And then finally, to top it off, we are going to place down a chest like so. Now one thing to keep in mind when placing down a chest next to this command block over here is that the orientation stays the same. So as you can see, this lock is facing the sun, and when we go over to the front you can see that this lock is also facing the sun. So that means when this chest in the back gets copied in front to the front here, everything will stay in the same orientation. So the next thing we are going to do is to hover over the back chest, and then we are going to type in /clone spacebar and then use tab space tab space tab to fill in the auto suggested, and then do this another time and then hit enter, and as you can see you will get a unknown or incomplete command because it's incomplete. Now we are going to go to the front chest to complete this command. So hover over the front chest, press T, arrow up, space, and then you can see we've got another coordinate in here, and then use tab again to autofill. And when we press enter you can see it says successfully cloned one block. Now press T, arrow up once more, and then Ctrl A, Ctrl C to copy the command. And if you're playing on Mac, then you can use Command A and Command C to copy the command. Now go over to your command block and then Ctrl V it in place and then hit done. Then we are going to go into our back chest and fill it up with any item we like this. I'm going to create a little pattern like so. Then go over into our front chest and open it up, and we are going to kickstart the mechanism because right now it's still empty. So place down one item into our chest and then remove it right away, and you will get kicked out of the chest, and once we open it up it will be filled up automatically. Now you can always edit the back chest later on to anything you'd like, and then the only thing we have to do is to get rid of all of the items in the chest and you got kicked out again, and as you can see the chest has now been updated. And of course don't forget you can use it with any container that you like. Now the next design we are going to place down is our double chest design. So place down your double chest and a wall behind there. Then we're going to place down a redstone comparator. It doesn't matter where it is as long as it's next to a block that is directly next to a chest. Then place down another block, another redstone torch, a command block, and then another double chest in the back like this. Hover over one of the back chests and type in /clone space tab tab tab. Now we are going to hit enter already. Go over to the other chest, press T, arrow up, space, and then use tab 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 again, and then hit enter once more. Then go over to your front chest, and it can be either one, so you press T, arrow up, space, tab tab tab, enter, and we are going to verify if the cloning has been done successfully. And as you can see it is not done successfully because we want this double chest to be one block over to the left. So what we are going to do is hover over to the chest on the left instead, press T, double arrow up, so twice, and then space, and then tab 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 again, and as you can see the chest is now in its right orientation. Now this is the command we are going to copy, so T, arrow up, Ctrl A, Ctrl C, go over into our command block, Ctrl V, hit done, go over into our back chest and fill it in with anything you'd like again. Go over into our front chest, place down one item, remove it, and as you can see everything is now correctly set up. So the next design is going to be the single chest on the floor. Now the first thing we are going to do is to place down a trapped chest in here instead of a normal chest. So definitely make sure that you've placed down a trapped chest, otherwise you'll probably be wondering why it isn't working after half an hour trying to troubleshoot your build, and a trapped chest is definitely going to solve that. Anyway, let's go down 2 blocks by placing down a block like this, destroy the middle one, place down a redstone dust on top, go to the back, place down a redstone torch, place down a command block below there, and then we are going to place down another trap chest, of course facing in the same orientation as the trap chest on the top. So then go to our back chest again and type /clone space, tap, 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 space, tap, 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 hit enter, go to our front chest on the top, press T, arrow up, space, tap, 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 enter, and as you can see the cloning is now correct. Press T, arrow up, Ctrl A, Ctrl C, go to our command block, Ctrl V, hit done. Fill in the back chest with anything you'd like. Go over to the top chest, open it up once, close it down, and as you can see it's been filled up, and once we close it up and open it up again, it will be filled up automatically once more. Now the last design is the double chest 4 design, and as you might imagine it's very similar to the single chest 4 design, and that is because it is actually the same, but the only difference is that one has got 2 chests and the other one has got 1. So let's place down our double chest like this, make sure that they trap chest once more, then go down 2 blocks, and then place down a redstone dust, place down a redstone torch on the bottom, a command block in here, then place down a trap chest next to your command block, of course in the same orientation as the chest on the top. Then we are going to type in /clone, space, tap, 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 hit enter, go over to the other chest, T, arrow up, space, tap, 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 enter, go over to the chest on the top, T, arrow up, space, tap, 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 enter, and as you can see the cloning is now correct. If your cloning is 1 block to the left like this for example, then go over to the other chest like this, do T, arrow up twice, space, tap, 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 and then hit enter, and then you will see that the chest will be placed in the right place. Now T, arrow up again, Ctrl A, Ctrl C, go over to our command block, Ctrl V, done. Go over into our back chest right here and fill it up with anything you'd like once more. Go over to the chest on the top, open it up, close it down, and as you can see the cloning is now successful. The last thing to do is to place it down into a place where you want it, for example on your server. This is my test server, the IQ community server, the best server ever, and there's free loot down below, so open it up and hi! There you go, we've got a chest full of stuff like this, and it is working extremely well. And for those who have come from the previous infinite chest tutorial, well, this is the better version you're watching right now, and the previous one was total ass, so I decided to make a new one because the last one was outdated and not very good instead. And hey, it looks like someone joined over here. Hello? Well, anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching. My name has been Mr. Ikeprop. I hope this tutorial was useful and you can use it in your Minecraft world. My name has been Mr. Ikeprop, and I'll see you in another video. Bye bye.